What's the good word, y'all? DKB here. Welcome to the New York Jets Syndicate channel. Welcome to somewhat of the man cave, hopefully at some point. Let's talk the New York Jets quarterback carousel, though. We have been linked to so many names. I've heard the number as many as 19 people were investigating to determine who could be our next starter in the 2023 season and finally give us an answer at the quarterback position for a team that feels like legitimately we're really just a quarterback away. We really do have an offense when you consider Garrett Wilson, true number one wide receiver, Elijah Moore, who had number one wide receiver potential. We have your athletic guys that you can try to mold up like a Denzel Mims. For now, we have the veteran Corey Davis, who's Mr. Clutch when he doesn't have Butterfingers. You have your versatility guys like Braxton Berrios. We have Conklin. We have Uzoma. We have Breece Hall, one of the best running backs in the league. Hopefully he bounces back very strong from his injury. We still have Michael Carter, who we feel really good about. Bam Knight, who showed some very interesting skills during last season when he came in to kind of help finish things down the stretch. So, with that said, let's talk some of the more known options. Aaron Rodgers, he is pulling a Where's Waldo trick with us, and we can't find the man. I listened to the Green Bay Packers general manager Brian Gutekunst's combine press conference, and he admitted he hasn't heard from Aaron Rodgers. If there's been contact, it's been very minimal, but nothing of any substance where we would have a indication or even a hardline decision on he wants to play, he wants to retire, which way he's leaning, nothing. And I got the vibes from that meeting, or that press conference anyways, that that franchise is done with him. It seems like there is a bit of aggravation on their part with, the inconsistency in him wanting to play, not being able to get proper communication when I'm sure they would need it. They've already kind of said that they haven't really put too many plans in place until they know what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. And so, we're talking about 2 weeks from free agency beginning, essentially, and they're clueless on what's happening. So if I had to say where Aaron Rodgers is most likely to go, I would say the Jets at this moment. He's kind of worked his way out. The thought of it scares me because in my head, I imagine Joe Douglas is going to be dealing with all of these same concerns a year from now. Whether we win a Super Bowl ring, make the playoffs, whatever the case is, you have to go back to this very exact situation. Now, maybe communication pipes up with us, fresh new franchise, wanting to make a good impression. Maybe he'll be stuck in his ways and this is just him. Who knows? But it's a quarterback saga and drama that I really would prefer not to deal with. With that said, though, Aaron Rodgers is going to be the best quarterback potentially available anyways, that the New York Jets can get their hands on it. So it makes a ton of sense. We've talked a lot, at least I have, about the connection between Zach Wilson and Aaron Rodgers and a mentoring role. And I do find it interesting that it seems like he would be willing to mentor Zach Wilson, whereas it seemed like it's been kind of a love-hate relationship with Jordan Love, maybe a forced connection there. But when you want to talk resume, talent, from a skill perspective, there's not a quarterback out there that's going to beat him out, and that's including a Lamar Jackson just from a pure passing standpoint. And so, it is what it is. Super Bowl winner, 4-time MVP, 11-10 record in the playoffs. I'll sign up for that any day of the week. It's all of this, off the field things that I don't really care for. But as everybody says, I see Aaron Rodgers playing in green next season. If he does want to do that, it's just going to depend on what shade, and I'm going to opt for the New York Jets green. One of our next options, Derek Carr. So our own general manager, Joe Douglas, announced in his press conference that the meeting went really, really well. Everybody feels very good about it. He really re-emphasized a lot of kind of what Robert Saleh mentioned and what came out of that initial meeting over the weekend about 2 weeks ago. And he, touched on some things himself. His release, the velocity on the ball placement and accuracy, his decision making. I personally think Derek Carr is one of the better post-snap quarterbacks. I also, again, love the fact that he's had a defense that's done nothing for him. He's willed his team to the playoffs twice, 0-2 playoff record, but still just being able to make it to the ball game is the entry point of what you want from a quarterback, and he can deliver on that. Now, you pair him with our defense, the weapons, and everything we discussed at our disposal, I think you're looking at a guy that can elevate his game to the next level. Now, all of that said, I do think because it seems like we are waiting for what happens with Aaron Rodgers, we miss out on Derek Carr. The Panthers are a situation where I think he can go to. It's a little bit scary, but Frank reached down there. Very religious man. Derek Carr is pretty religious himself, active in the community, all of those good things. And I have a feeling that when he meets with the Panthers, Frank Reach, I hear, is one of the more personable coaches and guys out there that you'll find in terms of being a coach. And I think it'll just be a friendly environment. He could sell him on the fact that they've been building up a defense over the years. They're looking to build an offense with him as the focal point of it all. And, maybe that'll be what, tips the scales a little bit in his favor. Jimmy Garoppolo is another guy. Now, he's kind of seemed like the emergency break the glass option for the New York Jets, right? If we miss out on Aaron Rodgers, we miss out on Derek Carr. Jimmy Garoppolo will still kind of be mulling around, and it is a seamless fit from a New York Jets player perspective. It is essentially the equivalent of us going out there and grabbing Laken Tomlinson again, this time at the quarterback position. And so the question marks with him are going to be from a durability standpoint. The man can't get through half a season realistically without something breaking. But from a skill perspective, I don't think he's necessarily too far from like Derek Carr. I think there's obviously going to be some limitations there. I don't think he's as effective in play action. I also don't like the fact that he doesn't seem to do well when he has to shoulder the offense himself, and his playmakers can't necessarily get things going right away. So, 1-2 playoff record. He's been there, done that, kind of seen a lot of things, but he's a guy that I think is kind of quintessentially a true game manager. He's going to go as far as what the defense on the other team allows, and kind of however effective our offense ends up being, like right out the gate and throughout the course of a game. And I think he's the guy that you can kind of really pin him to a lot of places just because of what's available and where some of these other more hot quarterbacks are, projected to go, or at least where I think they'll go. I would say Jimmy Garoppolo is looking at a team like maybe the Washington Commanders at the moment. Now, one of the most intriguing quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, I think he's a guy where the Falcons seem like they're gearing up to make some kind of big move for him. They've recently released Marcus Mariota. I've touched on a different channel, a trade package that they could put together, which would actually include Desmond Ridder as part of that package, along with a couple other picks. And that could be a done deal. They seem like they'd be willing to offer up a contract that would meet the expectations. Apparently, it's somewhere in the ballpark of what Deshaun Watson has gotten. But who knows how that plays out? We are talking large chunks of money. Falcons may not necessarily be in a position. We're not talking about an offense that's, tailor-made to go out there and just plug and play a quarterback. But you got to love the young pieces out there. Drake London, which would hopefully develop into the number one wide receiver for the guy. But, Lamar Jackson hasn't had a player with quite that build and fit for himself. So who knows? I can say that, Arthur Smith out there, he is going to run a run-oriented offense, which will work out in Lamar Jackson's favor. And so maybe that's something that can, tip the scales for the Falcons. Who knows? But they probably are in the best position to offer up a trade package that the Baltimore Ravens would be willing to receive. Then we have some of the interesting ones, names that have come up out of nowhere, names that have recently come up, and it's more so kind of speculation and based off the fact that contracts don't seem like they've been officially confirmed yet, even though nothing will kick in until March 15th, which will be the start of free agency officially. But you're talking about guys like Geno Smith, Daniel Jones, Carson Wentz, which was recently released, Jameis Winston. I'd have to imagine Ryan Tannehill is going to be out there, even though the Titans GM has said that they have no plans to move on from him. We mentioned Jameis. You still have... There's another name out there, actually, that it just escaped me. But still, quite a few names. I don't know where any of those guys will really go. I imagine Geno Smith is going to stay with the Seahawks. If Daniel Jones stays with the price tag of $45 million, which is what he's, per sources, expected to request, I can't see him working that out with the Giants. So maybe he becomes our new Jimmy Garoppolo to an extent. I don't know if it'll be the best seamless swap. His kind of up and down career, I would pair him maybe similar enough to what Geno Smith's done. He just has a little bit more substance on his resume because he hasn't had to bounce around the league as a backup. But I mean, technically, from an offensive standpoint, we're giving them better skill weapons. You can argue Breece Hall was better than a Saquon Barkley out of the gate if he kept it up for the full course of a season. Daniel Jones did a lot more with a lot less over there with the Giants. He'll be able to pretty much not have to change anything about his life coming right over to the Jets. I think it could be a sneaky, interesting pickup. Young quarterback, a guy with a lot of room for growth. He has a skill set that doesn't necessarily fit with anybody else that we talked about. More mobile than a guy like a Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers. Definitely a Jimmy Garoppolo, not quite up there with a Lamar Jackson. Maybe not even necessarily a Geno Smith. Maybe a more effective rusher than him. And then he's pretty careful with the ball, which is something I do love from the ball security aspect. But could have just been a masterful job by Brian Daboll over there. Or this could be the guy that you would have expected all along if the consistent coaching was in place. So who knows what's there? I say that to say I hope we don't fall into a situation where we are so stuck on researching and trying to find the perfect fit that we miss out on some of the top-notch talent that could fall into our lap and end up having to settle on like a plan C or plan B option. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Where do you project some of these top quarterbacks going? And who do you think the Jets have their eyes on? And I'll catch you again. Peace.